All right, so again, we're talking about the expired ID and where's it supported at. Of course, you can find it in the general statutes and our notary section of 10B. So this is something that, again, if you actually take the time to go over it, and again, it's a lot of information to cover when you look at the general statutes to its entirety for the notary section. But again, a lot of information is already put in our manual. We just have to, again, look at the updated information that we do want to make sure we're paying attention to so we can still make sure we're following the law by the letter. So, how to navigate and identifying and being in compliance for North Carolina. So, how do we go about doing all of those things? The gold standard, what is satisfactory evidence? That is exactly the term you will see in our notary manual. It's ID that must be current, not expired. So satisfactory means it's something that is okay, it's a check mark, it's good, right? If it's unsatisfactory, like when we was in school, that means you had either an S for satisfactory conduct or you had a U for unsatisfactory conduct. Well, we want to make sure we're working on evidence that can be proven that is considered satisfied. So again, breaking down that term helps you to really digest exactly how you can implement this when you're thinking about how to understand the different forms of what a satisfactory evidence is. So ID must be issued by a federal, state, or state federally recognized tribal government agency. Now there are additional types of IDs that are coming to the surface that is great to know for those that you may have a call, someone that's in prison, that's an inmate that may again need a notary. And oftentimes we run into the situation where they don't have their ID, not what they had when they came into, the correctional facilities. So we have to now figure out how do we can help these individuals. Well, thankfully there are now federal and state IDs for them that actually comply with exactly what state driver's license, state ID has. So that's a good thing. But again, there are certain things that you're still going to want to make sure you pay attention to when it comes to all of the elements that we have to focus on when we see an ID, because an ID alone is not enough. You got to pay attention to what's on the actual ID in the writing as well as the image. Okay. So when it comes to just understanding everything verbatim, it will help you have a checklist. All right. So the hard truth about expired means no. If a person has a expired ID and you don't know them, then you can't move forward with them. All right. Not with the ID in this situation. So when it comes to North Carolina General Statutes 10B, paragraph 322, it defines satisfactory evidence using the word current. The 2026 course guidance, ID cannot be expired. And again, talking to a lot of instructors, getting some insight on some of the things that has been updated. I have incorporated some of this information just so that we who have already taken the class some time ago, a lot of things have changed. And it may not be a bad idea just to actually invest in the class again to sit in, just so you can actually see what has changed and take some notes and put them in your book. Because when it comes to updates, if we do not see where they're actually updated in our book or manual and we're not really familiar with everything, then we might get tripped up because we're like, I think is not this, but how can you debate it if it's not written and updated so you know where to go to? So take the time to actually update any information that you need to in your actual manual by crossing whatever needs to be crossed out, as well as writing down exactly what it is and where you can find it. So all of those things can help you long term. Liability alert. Taking an acknowledgement without satisfactory evidence is a class one misdemeanor. So you want to make sure you understand when you are not properly identifying someone, you're breaking the law. And there is a category of what type of violation that is. So what you don't want is to be penalized for not doing exactly what you should know how to do, what you need to do. So the North Carolina exception, if you know credible witness. All right, credible witness is someone that you can actually have as a form of satisfactory evidence. Now, when it comes to how that's broken down, if you guys, I'm the I could be the actual credible witness. That means I know the signer very well, where I can say, yeah, I know her birthday. I even know what her favorite foods are. She pretty much kind of been in my life actively for over 10 years. And me and her family, we do a lot of things together. Now, it's all about the level of how much you know someone. Now, we see a lot of different Showtime or movies and TV shows where a person seems to be a totally different person, even someone been married to them for so long. Well, we're not really talking about that because it's all about what we feel we know about that person, because many people can wear a mask. So the goal is for you to feel that without a shadow of a doubt, you can trust this person and trust what they're saying. So when it comes to the credible witness, they are, it's like a sandwich. You have the credible witness, you have the notary, and you have the signer. Okay, the credible witness is in between both of them, and mutually, the credible witness knows the notary knows the credible witness very, very well, as well as the credible witness knowing again the signer, and the signer knowing the credible witness. So the notary knowing the credible witness, they're trusting their input on the identity of the signer. So this is how we work with a credible witness. If a person has an expired ID, or a person may not have an ID that they have on them or can't find it, any of those different scenarios, the point of understanding what you should know is the fact that the credible witness is the person now that has a vouch for the signer's identity. Unlike what we normally do, charging the signer for their signatures that we're notarizing and witnessing, we cannot charge a credible witness for that. Okay, so statute says there's two times we do not charge for a notarial fee, and that's when we're dealing with a credible witness as well as a absentee ballot. So that's something you really want to remember. So again, you won't be putting yourself in a position of violating the law. Okay, so again, make sure you write that down if you don't have that already. Now, why only North Carolina law matters? So staying in your lane, that's very important. North Carolina law versus other states. So as notaries here in North Carolina, we have specific rules to the state of North Carolina. You hear different notaries in different states sharing exactly what they can do or can't do in their state, but it may not be relevant to us. I do understand that there's conflicts where I hear when someone may be actually working or working with a signer facilitating a closing, and they want you to be a witness and a notary in the same position. Well, the law says, okay, and again, it's not me saying it, the law says we cannot be named in a document that we notarize, and we cannot notarize our own signature. It's not one and the same. The difference is if you are a witness on a transaction that's going to be notarized, guess what? Now you are a part of that document when it comes to you being named in it. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation where a Florida notary or a South Carolina notary can actually be the second witness on these documents, and the notary. We cannot be nothing but the notary in that capacity if we're notarizing a document. So again, having these understandings of all of what we can and cannot do in the state of North Carolina is what you need to focus on. So forget about what other notaries are saying if they're not in the state of North Carolina. And so you want to make sure you're always referring back to the North Carolina Notary Act. This will keep you safe. So take the time to look through everything, highlight those things that was like, oh, I did not realize this. Again, our instructors do their jobs the best they can to go over all of this information within this 8 hours or less time frame. But again, if you're not attentive to details, if you are not a good note taker, you will be lost in the sauce. Okay, because our memories as we get older are not the same. And some of us, even younger folk, again, they understand they have to take notes and you have to learn how to do that effectively so it can benefit you long term. So again, that's going to be very important. Compliance checklist and summary. So when it comes to the two-step compliance check, if it is expired, the act stops there unless you have a credible witness. Remember that. Charge correct fees. The traditional acts are now capped at $10 per signature. That has been since 2022. July 2022. And then the document the truth, record the specific ID type and its status, witness information in your journal to protect yourself. Now, I'm going over a lot of this in a summary type of way, but I want to make sure you understand the relevance because there's a lot of um, things I'm seeing in groups asking about, oh, well, this lady, she needs something notarized, but her ID expired last month. Can I not move forward with notarizing for it because it's just a month ago? It could be just a day ago, literally. No, we cannot without a credible witness. So it's very simple. Yes, it can be a bit hard to give people bad news that we can't move forward with this unless they know a notary, unless the notary knows, you know, or there's a credible witness that they both mutually know. So again, many times I will direct people to their church congregation because many times there's a notary somewhere in the congregation, and depending on how active a member may have been and how long they have been actually there, many times that can be very helpful for those that meet that scenario. But again, sometimes we just have to tell them we can't move forward, and it's unfortunate, but we're not responsible for them not having an active ID. So do not put that responsibility on you as the notary public. We have a due diligence and we have to make sure we're honest when it comes to what we share. And that is part of how we do that. And so, for final words, you want to guard your seal and your integrity by educating yourself. And the key is to preventing fraud and staying out of the department investigation office because if you're reported, they are obligated to now investigate and you may not have done anything wrong. But if they have information that feel that they need to actually reach out to you, audit your information, give question you until you cannot do any other notarizations until the investigation is over, this is the reality. So the goal is please make sure you're always in compliance with what the general statute says. And if you're not certain about something, ask your instructor that taught the class that you are in, or go to the Secretary of State's notary division, ask someone there. And sometimes, just to be very clear, even Ozzy, he's the director of the Notary Enforcement Division. He has he's been very clear. A lot of the staff members are not well versed in notary law because they're not notaries. Okay, they're administrators. So when it comes to their position, they haven't went through this class, but they do have information to kind of help them look through and answer certain questions. But sometimes it's not valid information. So unfortunately, that could be a hit and miss. So yes, talking to an instructor, talking to someone in the North Carolina Notary Association, myself being a part of that, we don't mind helping you. And again, going to a group that can be trusted with the information they're sharing is always ideal. So I always encourage you to go to the Confident Notaries in North Carolina Facebook group for any answers that you might need. And as far as the notary network, you will have a lot of people who may share their opinions. A lot of notaries do share good information. However, you do want to make sure you're following someone who's giving where the information is coming from because this will help you further as well as help others long term when you know exactly where to find the facts. So again, the goal is to always fact check to make sure that you don't have to guess, don't have to figure it out, but know exactly what the North Carolina laws say without feeling as if though you're compelled to debate with someone. Because what I don't do is argue. If I know for sure where it's at, I'm gonna let you know where it's at and I'm gonna let it be. Because there's no reason for me to put my energy into something that I didn't create. I'm just actually following the rules. So the goal is for you to know that you're going to see different personalities on different forums and just know that you don't have to participate. So again, guys, this goal is for you to understand how to handle an expired ID, what you can and cannot do so that you can actually be able to move forward successfully as a notary public along your notary journey. So I will now open the floor to those that are here. The raised hand is at the top. So if you have a comment or question, I welcome everything. Yes, Miss Tina, and then Miss Myra is next.
Hello, hope you guys are warm. I am. That's why I don't have my camera on. I have a big old robe on. I'm freezing.
Okay.
I have a question. So, okay, so I didn't perform a notary. It was last week. The lady had a document that she needed signed. I can't remember what the document was for. Anyway, her name on her ID, which was a new ID, new North Carolina ID, didn't match the document, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, as I'm filling out my journal, I'm like, wait a minute, the name is different on the document. So she told me she changed her name when she got citizenship or something like that. She showed me the paper and everything, and I just didn't do it. I didn't do it. Um, because I was just thinking of so many different scenarios, right? I'm like, this person on the paper could be her sister or something like that. I don't know. Or she could have a different ID. Um, and so I just didn't do it. And that
All right.
wasn't like she has it was one of the new North Carolina, real IDs and whatnot. And then she emailed me the name change thing where you could see it was the name that was on the paper that she was supposed to sign
Mm-hmm.
to the name that was on her ID. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
I didn't
No,
do
you
it.
did exactly correct. So this is the thing, like I said, we're not responsible for anyone taking responsibility to actually update their own identification. If that was done, it's just like when I got married and I changed my social security card to my married name, as well as my ID because I was married. So based on the new name that I was going by, that's what my ID should match in order for me to say this is who I am now. If my ID doesn't say that, then they've got to go by what my ID says. And so, to your point, there's a lot of name changes for various reasons. But if they don't do their due diligence to make sure the DMV has their new information as well as the Social Security Office to make sure everything is matching, that is their responsibility alone. Okay. Now,
I heard.
what could have been done as an alternative is either her or you telling her, well, if you can have your documents showing what's on your ID, then I can move forward because it has to match their first and last name. Okay. So you've been able to educate her on that level. It's not authorized practice of law. It's about telling her what the law is based on what we can do, the reason why it's been rejected by you. Or if she could actually strike the line through it and put the name based on what's on her ID. And again, with that, she would have just needed to call whoever the company, agency, or whomever the documents are going to go to for instructions if she did not go through legal counsel to get advice. But we can let her know that we cannot move forward just for the facts of the identification is not showing the same name that's on the paperwork, even if she shows us other documents that says what she is saying is true. Once again, we're not ones to read the content to understand it. All right, we're notary. So in our notary position, we're just strictly there to properly identify them. And you couldn't do that when it came to the information on the paperwork of her name being different than what's on her ID. So you did the right thing.
Yeah, I did tell her. I did. Well, I said if you can get whoever, I think it was her lawyer, if you can get them to change your name to what it says on your ID, because that is her name now, right? Her
Mm-hmm.
name was incorrect. Well, her old name was on the form. Her new name is on her license.
Right.
So yeah. So she would have to have them update to whatever she changed her name to.
That is correct. And so
Yeah.
once again, the paperwork for whatever reason, if it's something dealing with time frame of when she had this older paperwork or the paperwork that had her former name on it. Once again, that is something that she should have told them before she went to the notary. Hey, this is my new name now that I identify with, so that way it could have been drafted up correctly.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, there's gonna be a lot of those experiences. So thank you for sharing that, Tina. Myra, you're next, and then Sequilla, you're after Myra.
So with what you were speaking with in regards to having a oh, the word just went right out of my head. The person that knows the two people.
Credible witness.
Credible witness. If you are at work and doing your notary for a client that works, right? So you're at your job, you're
Hmm.
notarizing documents as for a client. They have a, they're part of the firm, right? You're working with them and they say, "Oh, I didn't bring my license today," right? But
Hmm.
you know me because I'm a client here. How yeah. So how do you handle something like that?
So it goes back to saying, how do you really know them?
Right.
They could be a client, however, just knowing them on that surface level of a client, how do you know them personally? It's a difference. You can't say you know them unless you actually have worked with them to understand and know a whole lot more about them in a more intimate way. So when it comes to if they're married, they have children, what schools they went to, you have to know a lot about a person. I mean, I can tell you, I know a lot of people, but when it comes to me really knowing someone, is
Right.
different. So
Right.
when you have to say, okay, how well do you know this person? You have to be able to feel that anything they say, you can say, oh yeah, I really believe they're being honest because of the relationship I have with them. So again, just because they're a client, they could have been a client for a year, they could have been a client for 10 years, depending on your relationship with them as a client and a professional, it does make a difference. So you have to understand and trust what you're saying as them being that person that you can actually vouch for. You got to make sure you're putting yourself on the line when you do that. So
Okay.
how well do you really know them? So you have to ask yourself those questions.
Thanks, Belinda.
You're welcome.
Well, because I can see some um boss, manager, person saying, "Well, they're a client, right? We
Hmm.
just go do it." Um,
So, and this is one of the things where when you're working for an employer and part of your job is notary in that capacity of working for them, if that comes with a job and that's part of the responsibility, you have to remember who you really work for as a notary public. You're there for
right.
an employee, okay, based on your job description or your job title. But you are notary public under the state of North Carolina, which is the
Right.
law that supersedes anything an employer would ever say to you. So if you feel that it may jeopardize your job, then that is something that you may need to actually talk to human resources about and say, look, I don't like feeling as if though I'm being forced to do something. And I feel that it's not legal based on what I believe and what I understand the law says, because you should never put yourself in a situation of, again, doing something unethical, unlawful, because someone is bullying you. And it happens in so many different ways too often when you're working for an employer. Now, yes, you have to be brave, okay, because they may fire you. But this is the thing, document everything. Because if you can report this to the notary enforcement to let them know this is what has happened in my job, talk to legal counsel. You may have a case where you can sue. So this is why it's important for you to understand you have to follow the law, because later on, if something happens and you're the one who's going to be called to court, if you're the one who did something unethical, unlawful, you're the one who's going to be accountable, not your boss. Okay, so those are the things you have to think about in the full scope of what a notary public stand for and our responsibilities. So yeah, sometimes it seems like a very tough situation, but you have to be brave. And when I say that, it's because it's hard to feel like you can actually keep a job now without something happening where someone can fire you, because we have, where they what is that
Right to work.
thing,
Yeah.
what is it called?
Right to work.
Okay.
It
So
sounds backwards. It sounds backwards. But yes, it sounds
and it can,
backwards.
and so not everyone, some people can be very intimidated by who they work for. But once again, that is something that if you guys are working for an employer and you have seen this, I've seen it too many times in the past where I'm like, oh no, that is not good. You got to make sure you're standing firm on what the law says to protect you and you always in that capacity. All right,
Perfect. And
Myra.
Tina wrote here, and that's exactly why I asked the question, because Tina's boss did it to her once. So that's what she wrote. So yes. Thank you, Belinda.
You're welcome. Sequella, you're next. And then Miss Reese. You're on mute. If you're speaking Sequella, we don't hear you. So we're gonna go to Miss Reese.
Okay, you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay, hi everybody. Okay, three questions regarding identifications. Okay, in the log it states you have options. You can put in the driver's license number, or you can state known by notary. Is that so? Is one, do we have to put their ID in or not?
So are you talking about recording it in your journal?
Yeah, in the journal. Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is my way of working through when I record information. When it comes to the identification, it's not something I'm keeping, but we can legally record the identification number. This is the only way, or one of two ways, I can say, well, this person was in front of me when it comes to them signing my journal as well as me recording that identification. If ever there's a situation later on where, again, you call the court within 10 years and they say, well, how did you actually properly identify this person? If you go back to your journal, then you can actually identify based on what you recorded. And again, if you take meticulous notes, it can cover you every single time. You can specify, yes, they were there. I recorded their driver's license number or state ID number, whatever that number is, passport identification number. If it's recorded, that is one way of you tying yourself, because how did you get that number? They had to present something. And if that
Mm-hmm.
person was a fraud, once again, you recorded what was before you on their ID. So this is my extra layer of covering myself by recording it. Now, for those of you that have taken the class and in your book, it says to not record the identification number of a driver's license or an ID card and nor their social security number. Well, that has been corrected by Ozzy some years ago when one of our members of the North Carolina Association had brought their to his attention, and he stated, no, that was incorrect. That will be updated at some point in time. But the truth is, we can record identification numbers, but we can never, ever, ever record someone's social security number. Okay, just like your commission number,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Uh-huh.
number that you should not share with anybody. It should be treated
Mm-hmm.
like your social security number. The only people who have the right to ask you is the Secretary of State. When you call to ask about something dealing with you personally, they're going to ask you to identify yourself. Your commission number is how you do that.
Okay. And also, if you know a person and you know them well, like family or close friends,
Hmm.
and their driver's license or their ID, it's not the address that you know that they supposed to be living at. It's that none of our business, or you know.
It's none of our business, because what we're looking for is who they say they are on their ID, what they
Okay.
look like to see if that looks like the same person, what the expiration date has. So when it comes to those particular
Okay.
things, we're looking for expiration dates, date of birth, so we can actually have more information that we can fill in to identify what is on the ID. The address is the DMV business. So if they have
Okay.
information with the Department of
Okay.
Motor Vehicles, then that is something they
Okay.
have to deal with.
All right. Because at one time I was kind of new at it, doing
Hmm.
titles. And I was
Okay.
filling in the part up there where you put their name and the address and all that stuff in, but it didn't coincide with their ID. And so that kind of put me, I didn't know what to do. I think I ended up having to call in to find out, what was the right thing to do. So I think maybe last year when you shared that we didn't have to fill that part in, it was for them to fill out.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I learned my lesson from that because it really bothered me because these were people that I knew. And
Okay.
yeah, and so I just wanted to make sure that I was getting correct information in case it happens again. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
They be wearing me out. Well, you know me. Yes, I do, but I need your ID.
And again, you, the notary, you are in charge. So if you tell them what you are wanting, then they need to abide by that. They really want to actually get your assistance. So good for you.
Okay.
All right, Sunita, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. So, my question is in reference to the credible witness. So, I just want
Mhm.
clarification. So, if I have a client and she informs me that she does not have her driver's license is, well, let's just say she doesn't have her driver's license. She forgot it.
Mhm.
But um, she was able to obtain a credible witness. Say, for example, her sister was lived right around the corner, and her sister was able to come.
Mhm.
Now, would her sister be able to be used as a credible witness? Do I have to actually know her sister?
Yes, you are the
Okay,
notary. So like
I'm
the
the notary.
sandwich. Okay, so have this image. There's a sandwich. You're the notary. You
Mm-hmm.
have the signer, but in the middle is the credible witness. So the credible witness have to mutually know you as well as you know them, and they have to know the signer as well as the signer knowing them.
Okay. All right. So that answers my question. And this other question is a part two. This
Hmm.
might not, you might tell me this might not be affiliated with this, but anyway, I just want to ask. So if I am doing a loan signing and it states that I need to provide a credible witness, that's something different or basically along the same lines. So is that we're stepping into a different area on that?
I would say we're stepping to a different area because
Okay.
remember the North Carolina, the law does not identify mobile notaries, signing
Mm-hmm.
agents, settlement
Okay.
agents, and of that. So that's in our chapter 6 on page 62. So if you
Okay.
read that portion, it will cover everything that we need to know in that capacity. As long as you understand notary public, you're always a notary public, and you have to
Okay.
follow those guidelines based on the rules,
Mm-hmm.
based on law for notaries. So I again, if the instructions are coming to you for a credible witness, I've never seen it in the days that I've actually been doing signings. So that to me is foreign, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why they would want that when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
these types of documents that are so highly important. So
Mm-hmm.
I would not even want to move forward with it because I won't feel comfortable personally.
Okay, right. Okay. Because I had one recently, and it said that I need to provide, a witness, and I was like, okay,
So that's a difference. That's a difference. You're
okay,
saying witness. There's different types of witnesses. You have credible
okay,
witness. The reason why they specifically say credible witness. You have
mm-hmm.
subscribing witness. You have non-subscribing witness. You have impartial witness. So
Okay,
in your capacity of what you was reading, that's an impartial witness. Someone who
okay,
can actually vouch for what's happening when it comes to the signature of the signer, okay, which is
okay,
the principal that the paperwork belonged to. And so, in that situation, again, a witness is something that a notary is never responsible for providing. As a signing agent, that is something that you will have to disclose and agree to with the people that you are contracting your services with to let them know what you're willing to do, because that is something that, again, a notary public is never responsible for. It's the principal
right,
signer. That's their responsibility. That's their paperwork. That's their affairs. So that's something
okay,
they should always have in place. Sometimes they may not have someone, they may be new in the area, they don't know anyone, or they could be very private and they don't want their neighbors in their business. So,
Right.
a situation, if you know others that could actually be a witness to what's happening
Mm-hmm.
at the table, then you can actually see if that can be okay because you're still dealing with people's personal information. So
Right.
if you just have anybody there, they still have to identify themselves, right? To you, the
Mm-hmm.
notary, to
Right.
identify who it is that's actually witnessing this. So
Okay.
there's a whole lot more layers with that, but there's
Right.
different types of witnesses.
Okay. I'm sorry. I should have been more clearer. Okay. It's just a witness. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're very welcome. And I know Sequella, something must have happened to you because I know that you had to come back in. So if you still have a question or comment, you can actually move forward now if you would like. All right. So is there any other questions or comments that you guys may have? And it can be something unrelated to identity. The goal is to go over the topic when we first get started. But if you have like a burning question that you're like, oh goodness gracious, I really want to know this, an answer to whatever it is, this can be the opportunity to do so. We have 13 more minutes remaining. So please do take the time to allow your questions to be heard. If someone can actually look at the chat for me, because I'm going to be very transparent. I have like ADD. I cannot do too many things without feeling like I lose my focus. So, in order for me to stay on task and remember what I'm talking about, if I can get some help, that would be greatly appreciated because I know me. And I'm just like, no, I can't do both and feel like I'm still staying on task. So, that would be very helpful. So, who can
Belinda in
help
the
me?
chat. I'll help you.
Sequella says
Belinda,
she is still having issues.
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe she can
Um,
type her question in the chat.
Yeah, please do that for us, Sequella. And Mari, thank you so much for being the moderator.
there's still conversation going on with Tina's question earlier about the document. Vicky brought up a point. Vicky said, well, what if the name change document that she had the name change document at the time and was using both her ID and the name change document, would that be okay? And the consensus so far is no, because then the document would become part of the ID. But go ahead, Belinda, if you want to respond to that. So the question,
Now, let me make sure I understand that. Are you saying there's two different IDs, her old ID and now her new ID?
no, she's got the ID, but then she has like, I've done name changes myself. You get a document, right, that's stamped and it says this is your
Oh,
name change document from the courts, right? So if I have my name change document from the courts and I have my ID, could Tina have notarized that document with her old name based on the court document that she had? The thought is no, but go ahead.
mhm. And it's no all day long. And just think about it this way: it's about a record. You can have someone who has a birth certificate and you can see the raised seal, but we are not registered deeds. So we don't have no business as a notary public saying that's a true copy of that actual certificate. So we have to make sure they themselves are able to say a statement that this is a true copy, that they're the ones who's actually going to be under oath, or you administer an affirmation in lieu of oath to actually say that this is a true copy. But we never make that statement. We're just there to do our job, identify, confirm information, no blanks, and to make sure we're verifying their signature when we see and witness them signing. Okay, so we have to stick to the law every single time. Let's not make it complicated because a lot of times we do. But the goal is to remember exactly what the law says we can and cannot do. And a piece of paper that is not an identification based on satisfactory evidence, we cannot accept it. Not even a paper copy of our temporary driver's license or state ID because it's not the actual ID itself. So that is something that again comes into question all the time is, oh, I just went to actually go get my license. They gave me the temporary license. And again, it's a paper copy. We cannot ever accept that as satisfactory evidence.
Oh, can I say something to Belinda?
ma'am.
She still had her old ID, but
Okay.
she didn't have it
But
on her.
so
She
that was
didn't
on her.
on her, right? So so anyway, it was a Friday and she was supposed to come back on a Monday with the
Mm-hmm.
ID because she said it was still good. It hadn't expired or anything.
Okay.
But but instead I got an email with the same document stating where she changed her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even respond to the email. I was just, because I just it was and I remember what the document was. I put that in the chat. It was a settlement document.
Yeah.
And so she was going to be getting money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, well, what I just like I said, my mind goes there. I'm like, what if this is somebody else that she's gonna sign this
And
document
that's good.
getting the
We
money,
have to question
right?
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
Sequella wanted to know if we let the person know in advance before doing the notarization to please have current ID with the correct name on the ID. That'll save time. That is, I guess, something else I could say in addition to, do you have an unexpired, is your unexpired government issue photo ID? Does it have your name as is written on the document? So
Mm-hmm.
that might be another
That's a
thing I could,
checklist.
yeah,
So
thing
everyone that's here, you can just take the time to go over your notary manual and create your own checklist of what you feel may be helpful for questions when you're talking to someone over the phone. Because what you don't want to do is waste time. It takes time to meet with someone to actually try to assist them, but it becomes really disappointing for them. Where if you can't move forward because you having to again abide by the law, then again you have wasted your time and possibly if you didn't charge for travel, that too. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration when you are wanting to assist someone that's calling you for your services. Do everything you possibly can to actually help both of you by having a checklist of information that is often maybe problematic that you can again avoid if they're able to answer those questions over the phone.
Mhm.
So good
And that was the
question.
first time that it happened on a document. I normally do
Okay.
ask on the title because you get that a lot. The name,
Yep.
the seller's name doesn't matter. So I do, that is one of my checklist questions that I ask if it pertains to a title.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll add it for all types of documents
Oh,
because
most definitely that
I
will
never
help.
had that happen to me before.
I
Where I
understand.
mean,
And this is the
not
thing, first
only
time.
Mark, I think it's Mark in the chat. The name was completely different. I think she either took her middle name, made it her first name, and then her middle and last name were different. And you don't know what the
Mm,
circumstances are for this woman. You know what I'm saying? She had two
true.
children. She might have had to do an identity change. Who knows? Because they recently moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah. So anyway, but it wasn't anything like identical. You know what I'm saying?
It didn't
Like,
look like it was any remotely the same. So
right,
again, because
right.
you work with a law firm, okay, so legally you understand there's a lot of things that needs to be cross referenced. So you did your due diligence. You did. Any other questions or comments? Don't be shy, guys. You're
Yes,
with your
I
peers.
have a question. Belinda, I have a question. This is Anita.
Yes.
Two short questions. My first question is, do you feel that it's feasible to have a membership with the NNA? That's my first question. Or could you
So do you
answer?
know? So do you understand what the NNA does?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
So if you feel that you can benefit based on what they're
mm-hmm.
known for nationally, then that
Uh-huh.
is something that you can actually look into.
Okay.
I see them as a strategy to
Mm-hmm.
actually allow business growth potential.
Okay. Okay. And then my second question is, could you give a mock response? Say, for example, if I was reaching out to you and
Hmm.
wanting to see if you can notarize a power of attorney for me, could you provide a
Oh,
response?
so what type of power of attorney is it?
Well, I'll say, hi, Miss Belinda. My name is Sunita, and I'm calling to reach out to you to see if you would be able to notarize a power of attorney document for my father, which he's ill right now, but he is still in great capacity where he can talk and he's still alert and all of that.
Okay, so I would still ask what type of power of attorney is it? Does it require witnesses? Does the wording on the document state is requires witnesses? And where did the document come from? Was it online, or did the attorney create this for him, or did he do it independent? Or did you
Okay.
help him with this?
So it doesn't require any witnesses, and this was a document that him and I we got offline, and then I filled in the information, and he reviewed it as well, and he will be present during the notarization if you're able to.
Okay, and he's able to sign his name?
Yes, he is, and I'm his
Okay,
daughter, of course.
okay.
Okay.
And do he have current ID?
Yes, he does.
All right,
Okay.
so with the current ID, and we'll just set a date and time, and then we'll make arrangements for me to meet you guys during that time frame.
Okay. And okay, thank you. Okay, that's the end of my
You're
question.
welcome.
So,
And see, this is how you do it, guys. She had a question that had nothing to do with identification, right? So, whatever she felt that she needed to get an answer for, she took her shot. So, again, y'all got 3 minutes.
Okay, Miss
Yes, Miss
Belinda.
Reese.
Oh, this is
Think I
Well,
was
Elisa.
typing
no,
it.
no, no. I'm sorry. Miss Reese raised her hand, so I just want to make sure. Are you have a question, Miss Reese?
Yes, ma'am. I think I had
Okay,
been
then I get
typing
you
in
to
the.
Alyssa.
I was typing in the wrong section. Anyway, what's the difference between document kind and notarial kind when you're doing your journal in your journal?
Okay, say that one more time.
The difference between document kind and notarial kind. Say like when you're writing in your
Okay,
journal. Yeah.
so different journals are going to phrase it differently. So if they're
Oh,
asking you for notary kind or notarial act, that means it's an acknowledgement or is it a jurat? If it's a jurat, did they do an oath or an affirmation? And if it's a document type, it could be a bill of sale, it could be a estate planning document, a will. So those are the ways you actually identify that information on your journal.
okay. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. And Alyssa.
I just have I wanted to go to the convention this year, and just looking to make sure that I make my payment. I think you may have mentioned it before in other chats. I send the information to member at North Carolina. So
Membership.
what was the membership? Okay.
Yeah. Membership at NCNA. And I'm sorry. Membership at ncnotary.org.
NC Notary
.org.
.org. What can we learn? What's going to be happening at the? I mean, is it going to be something? Is it going to be? What can we
They're
learn from
going to
this
be
in your past?
speakers. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the conference itself is going to be on Saturday. All right, we're going to have Ozzy. He's always a great speaker. Secretary of State Elaine Marshall, she's always there, always invited. So they usually actually speak and share information for the notaries that's present. We usually have guest speakers as well. But leading to that Saturday, we will have different classes. So we'll have several different training classes. So when you go onto our website, when you go to the conference, it actually gives you insight on what to expect when it comes to Thursday leading to Friday for the Saturday conference. All right, so
Well, thank
we're
you.
at 7. Oh, you're welcome. So we're at 7:30. So I appreciate you guys actually coming on. And because this is also going to be on a replay, you have one more question. Who is that? Alyssa or Tina? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Sequella had a question.
Yes.
Is there an itinerary for the conference? Because I know I will not be able to make all days.
So once again, please just go to the website and see exactly what is sharing. We're still working on finalizing some of the intricate parts of the classes and everything. But by the month of March, March or April, we'll have more definitive of everything. So there's still, the planning committee is working on that very hard to try to get everything taken care of. But yes, get a general idea just by going onto the website. It goes through everything in detail. But once it comes to the itinerary, that will be more finalized in another 2 months. And so for those that are seeing this as a replay, I would love for you guys to subscribe to my channel, like and share. And again, share this with fellow notaries that may not know about our Tuesday Notary Tune-Ups, where you can actually get information and insights. And if you find value, please do share your experience in our comments. So we do appreciate you actually being a participant, and we always look forward to seeing you every week on Tuesday.